from West Virginia Public Broadcasting.
أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله.
I was afraid to watch the documentary. I literally watched it alone on my laptop because I was afraid that it was going to take me back to a place of such pain that I would have all of the angst and anxiety from that time resurrected. But I was able to watch it without feeling, my heart get strangled, because I look back and I really think that what we did was a good thing. I feel sad that there wasn't a better process. That was always what made me sad throughout. I didn't want it to be a process of conflict and confrontation. I knew that the stakes were really high. I had this wonderful friend at the Wall Street Journal by the name of Daniel Pearl. We had both gone to Pakistan after September 11th as journalists, and he came to visit my house in Karachi. And I waved goodbye to him alongside his wife as he got into a taxi for an interview that we thought was going to be with a Muslim sheikh. In fact, it was a plot to kidnap him. And I never saw Danny again.
You mentioned your friend Daniel Pearl several times during the documentary. Did what happened to him in any way play a role in your actions in Morgantown?
My actions in Morgantown were directly connected to my experience in seeing my friend Danny kidnapped and then murdered. In the search to find Danny, we discovered that the photos that had been dropped off of him had been left at a mosque. And I knew from my studies in communication and media that mosques are repositories for information, political activism. They're our town square. I mean, they are where policy and ideology and theology are defined for the community. And so I knew that we have to take back our mosques. Like, we have to basically assert what kind of Islam is expressed in our community mosques. These are photos that were dropped off at a mosque in Karachi by the men who kidnapped Danny. They were Muslim militants who prayed 5 times a day, and their reading of the Quran told them that they could do this. And these photos showed me the slippery slope of where intolerance and hatred can take us, and I wasn't going to accept it in my mosque in Morgantown. Places of worship can become mechanisms for terrible violence and destruction in our communities. And so that's a message that I had witnessed personally, and I can see through the documentary it was one that many people in my community didn't get. To me, it was really clear that there's a link between the type of Islam that you practice in your mosque and, your attitudes toward your community and the way that you relate to others. What is this thing here? Look at that. That is so scary. Okay, this is the guy who said that a woman's voice is not to be heard in the mosque. This is a guy who said Jews are the descendants of apes and pigs. This is the guy who said that the men should surround me and scare me. No, for real. I mean, that's what he said.
And they are talking unity, all they are Arabs.
Yeah, that's really hysterical. This is pretty comical.
Yeah.
Interesting.
There's a scene in the documentary where you and your father are looking at pictures of the slate of people running for the election, and he points out that the people are Arabs. Is there a difference in the way different cultures interpret the Quran and Islam?
Yeah, there's definitely a cultural difference within our Muslim world. There's revolutionaries in every community, but prevailing dominant themes are unique inside of each of these communities. And so what becomes problematic is when the bullies of any culture want to then say this is, the way that we're going to do it for everyone else. And so when it's really narrow, that's when it's really difficult. And the problem is that I think in our American Muslim identity, we're more expansive. There is room at the table for everyone. Just don't force your way on everyone else. But when you come from a cultural norm where your narrow definition is how everybody should live, then it becomes suffocating, I think, for the rest of the community. And that's the clash that we got into.
Is it because there are people from different countries in that particular mosque?
Yeah, our mosque in Morgantown is emblematic of our Muslim community. The hardliners, the crazy feminist chick, the moderates who sit on the fence and don't take any action, the little kids who are disenfranchised. I mean, these are all of the dynamics of our Muslim community. And that's really to me, like, the challenge is, like, if we can't make it work in this community and figure out how to coexist, then I don't know how we're going to do it in the rest of the world.
Now, some at the mosque seem to be in agreement with what you wanted to do, but didn't like your tactics. Is there anything you would have done differently in hindsight?
I honestly have thought about that a lot. I went down to Atlanta and I went to the Martin Luther King Museum, looked at the strategies of the civil rights movement and, these mechanisms where you try to have a dialogue, then you move into protest, and then you move into legal actions. I really tried as much as I could bear to try without just walking away, to have conversations with the leaders at our mosque. Before cameras started rolling, for months, I had been begging them for meetings and sending them, the kind of emails that we're taught to send and to start conversations. And every time I kept hearing, "Sorry, sister, we don't have time. I'm sorry, sister, we're very busy. I'm sorry, sister, this isn't really important to us." It never mattered to them. And so when I finally decided to do what I know how to do, which is write about this issue, it was after realizing that nobody was ever going to have a conversation with me.
Asra had asked the mosque executive committee formally to make an announcement about a women's literary event that she was going to have, and she was inviting some scholars and some other women scholars. Well, what we didn't know about was that we were going to have a protest march on our own mosque.
And above me, light.
Nomani and a group of 7 Muslim women from all across the nation joined in prayer and a march on the mosque, the latest in a line of events that have brought national attention to this religious center.
There's not really anything that I would do differently because every step along the way, I wanted to have honest conversation, and I couldn't. Nobody would have it.
Do you think your actions in any way changed the mosque in Morgantown?
From what I understand, there is an effort to integrate women into the leadership roles. Honestly, it's not as far as I would wish. I mean, you can create a sisters committee, and you can, have your open house with few women as spokespeople. But really, I believe it's still a men's club. I mean, the pressure is so on women to remain subordinate in order to be good girls, because I'm the bad girl, and look how popular I am, right? So nobody wants that for themselves.
I used to think that women shouldn't pray in the same hall with men, and this actually was the reason of a couple of incidents happened in the mosque where I shouted sometimes, but I educated myself and I found that I was mistaken. So I am pro-women praying in the same hall.
And so the reason why I ended up writing about what happened in Morgantown initially was because I wanted this story to come to life as an issue. This is what I'd learned as a journalist always, bring it to life, show, don't tell. And so what's happened is that with this case study, with this situation, people have been able to say, yes, that happens in my community, and it shouldn't happen in my community. I don't want it to happen. And so the national Muslim organizations have created new policies that affirm the right of women to the main halls of mosques, and women around the world are challenging these man-made rules that they're not welcome at the mosques.